There's some research in terms of European employees, 37% of employees are financially stressed. And there's very close links between financial stress and mental health. And I looked deeper into that and realized that the employees in Europe lose around about 14 hours a week worrying about money, of about 37%, of which 8 of those are spent at work.
Human resource information systems, that role typically used to report to HR. We're starting to see that role more and more and more move into payroll. And it's because we have the data and those individuals want to understand the data better so that when they're having to write reports or pull analytics together for us, they are able to better speak to it as well.
Keeping businesses thriving, compliance and safe, forecasting strategy, it's all on our mind. It's time payroll took its place in the boardroom to shine.
Managing a global team is complex, but Deel makes it simpler with payroll, HR, IT, and compliance all in one place. That's why over 35,000 businesses trust Deel to hire, pay, and manage their teams worldwide. See how Deel works at deel.com/nickday. That's DEEL.com/NICKDAY. Deel, your forever people platform. Now just imagine if your payroll team became the strategic engine of your business, not just running payslips, but driving retention, reducing turnover, and rewriting what payroll means in this digital age. If you're joining us for the first time, hello and welcome to the Payroll Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Nick Day and I'm the CEO at JGA Recruitment. We're a specialist global payroll recruiter. And if you're new to the show, please do remember to click subscribe. Remember to follow the show. But most importantly, if you will, share this episode with all of your payroll colleagues and friends, because together we're going to really help raise the profile of this amazing profession worldwide. Now, we've got someone here quite special who's going to help us to do that today. Her name is April Smith, CPP. She's also Vice President of Payroll and Benefits at Senior Lifestyle, with more than 15 years of experience in large-scale payroll operations across sectors including healthcare, banking, and insurance. She was also the recipient of the Daily Pay's Payroll Trailblazer Award in 2021, and she's led major automation initiatives and, most importantly for today's discussion, earned wage access deployments. Now, her team at the moment pay over 10,000 employees across 26 states. And her insights today, I hope, are going to really help us to explore how payroll professionals can shift from that idea of us just being a cost center to being real value creators and value drivers. But I don't want to give everything away in the introduction. So without further ado, April, welcome to the Payroll Podcast. How are you feeling?
Doing good. Thank you so much for having me, Nick.
Super excited to have you here. Super excited to talk about something that I'm really passionate about, full disclosure. We're going to talk about earned wage access today. But before we get there, let me ask you, what does the word payroll mean to you?
Payroll. Payroll means many things to me. It's the most valuable reason why we all go to work every single day is to be able to provide for our livelihood. And so getting to help people achieve that and doing it timely and accurately and knowing that they're being paid for value of what they're contributing to society is just so rewarding.
Yeah, fantastic. It's a great place to start. And it's something that this may be slightly controversial for people listening to that. Payroll used to be about paying people accurately, compliantly, and on time. I'm not saying it's not, but to a certain degree, it's table stakes now. We've got some technology and some amazing initiatives that I think helps payroll to deliver even more, which is why I mentioned in my intro, cost center to value creators. And you've been really at the forefront of this by implementing solutions such as EWA. Not everyone maybe is familiar with what EWA is, or earned wage access. So I wonder if I could ask you to bring us up to speed and talk a little bit about your experience that's brought you to where we are today as well.
Early wage access for us has been monumental in our company. It's allowed us to retain those employees who are living paycheck to paycheck, and they are allowed to keep more of their personal life to themselves. And it's not as apparent to others if they might be struggling with something. Maybe they just needed, an extra $20 to get them a tank of gas to be able to finish work for the last 2 days before payday. Or maybe they needed to get prescriptions because they were in the hospital the night before with the baby and they're not getting paid, but they're able to go to the pharmacy and get those prescriptions that they desperately need to help their family continue on until they're receiving their normal pay cycle check.
Yeah, you gave two really, really good examples there. I'm interested to know, because certainly in the UK, I think it's probably slightly more adopted and well received at the moment in the US side of things. And it's something that I think will eventually probably get worldwide adoption. I personally hope that it will, because I'm a big advocate for it. But how did you first react when you first heard about the idea of on-demand pay? And then how did your team think about it as well? Because it's one thing for you to be bought in, but then you've got to try and sell the idea on. So tell us a little bit about that.
I was absolutely 100% totally against it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes, I was in a boardroom with my CEO and some investors, and another competitor was offering something like this. This was back in like 2017 or 2018 at the time. And they said, look, we have to find a solution. And I said, well, I just don't think this would be a good financial tool for our employees. Our employees are already living paycheck to paycheck in a lot of situations. And then now allowing them to take their money early. And I always use the example of, I've got chicken in the refrigerator, that I bought to make a specific meal. But then I get home from work and I'm too tired. And I'm like, oh, well, I can just take $50 out now and just order pizza. And then that's put the employee in a financial situation, in my opinion. So I was very, very against it. And then working with some shared partners, they really opened my eyes to let me see the other flip side of it. And overall, it's been a great experience. I love being proven wrong. And this is one of those things that it has completely proved me 100% wrong. And that's why I'm so supportive of it, because there's so many people out there who have that same initial thought, is that it financially is like payday loans and such for the employees, and that they're going to mistreat it and such. And surprisingly, over 95% of our employees, the reason why they are taking their pay is because they need to pay a bill and they want to pay it on time. And we want them to have good credit history so that they can further their professional and their personal goals in life.
Yeah, you made some really good points. I mean, just my 5 cents worth from my understanding. And I came across this for the first time when I had a candidate who couldn't attend an interview. She'd made redundant because she couldn't afford the £47 train fare. And I thought, this is crazy. She had the money, it was owed to her, but it was trapped in a pay cycle because she was waiting for it at the end of the month. So you've earned the money, but you can't get to an interview that could change your life because it's trapped in a pay cycle. It kind of hit me between the eyes as a recruiter, realizing that there was a gap now. She either had to take a loan or borrow it to get to an interview but she'd already earned the money. For me, it seemed crazy. And then I thought a little bit further into this. There's some research in terms of European employees. 37% of employees, according to the SD Works Pulse report recently, said that 37% of employees are financially stressed. And there's very close links between financial stress and mental health. And I looked deeper into that and realized that the employees in Europe lose around about 14 hours a week worrying about money. That was about 37%, of which 8 of those are spent at work. And then I thought, it was me. It's Sunday and I'm 8 days away from payday, 7 days, whatever it is. I'm already overdrawn. I've got bills coming out. Am I bringing my best self to work on Monday, knowing I've got all that on top of me? And I'm not. And therefore, we know we're going to be losing not just that stress for the employee, but we're losing productivity at work. There's increased absenteeism, presenteeism, and all the things that come on the back of it. And I think there's a real steamroller effect. And the counter arguments that I've heard in the payroll industry are, as you've just highlighted there, I'm worried about exacerbating a problem. But I also think that adults have choices. So we have to trust our employees to make sensible choices. But even if they don't, and here's the thing, let's say that we are exacerbating something, at least we have an opportunity to spot the signals, to see the signs, to cross-reference that data, maybe with HR and say, well, have they been absent more often? Has their productivity gone down? Do we need to schedule a wellness check-in here? And this is why I think payroll can have a real influence on the employee experience at a mental health level, at a whole, it's a holistic well-being level. For me, that's super exciting. So there's a little bit from me as to why I'm such a believer as well. Of course, I've not gone through the process of implementing it as you have. So tell me a little bit more about how EWA has actually impacted the employee experience and the role of payroll in your organization since you implemented it.
So the impact that it's had in our industry, because we work in healthcare, it's been very impactful because some of these employees may have multiple jobs in order to make ends meet. And so they may be able to utilize early wage access with us to be able to pay for something before they're able to get their paycheck from another location and such. But those that are only utilizing our company as their only source of income, we found that they're utilizing the wages very responsibly. I was just flabbergasted when I saw the numbers. And I think to date, I believe our company, they've transferred over, $3 million or $4 million now over the past several years. And I'm like you, I agree in a very healthy financial health. And I believe that I'm their steward to help them do that, to make good choices and to provide our employees with good options. And I had to sit there and think about it and go, I believe if they have their bank account overdrawn, current bank fees are like $35 per instance. And then they start charging a daily fee after that. And for them to pay $3.50 to be able to get their funds immediately and be able to meet their immediate financial needs that they have, that's just huge. And so our employees have been utilizing it not only in that aspect of being able to gain access to their funds early, but I've seen them actually start utilizing it as a tool to budget their finances. A lot of them sign up for the services not just to be able to gain access to their wages, but also so that they can see how it's building. And so they can see how much they're expecting to be able to know what bills are going to be able to pay with that. And if they're going to have any other challenges financially during that time period. So it's been very encouraging to the employees because they like to see it building and see those numbers going up. And then they know that it's there. It's that safeguard. And you're right. When they come to work, they're a lot more at peace. They're not sitting there, anxious going, oh my goodness, I've got 3 more days before I get paid. And I don't have enough gas in the car, or, I know that my son, is going to need lunch money and I don't know if I'm going to have it to give him right away, and things like that. And so that all that worry and tension of finances comes to work with them. And then we lose a lot of productivity. But because of early wage access, all of that's been, it's not been alleviated 100%, but it alleviates a lot of it. And they're just like, okay, great, I'm good. At the end of the day, if I need to take money, I've got it. And they just very happy. We've used it as a recruiting role as well, as you know. And so we use it as a recruiting method, and we put that on all of our advertisements and job postings that we offer same day pay. And we've gotten a lot of employees. We don't even have to advertise it in the company anymore. Did you know that? We don't even have to advertise it. Our employees take care of each other, and they're like, hey, by the way, did you know you can get paid today? So we put it on the job postings, but that's it. After that, the employees are all taking care of each other, and they're showing each other how to sign up for it, which is just great. And again, a lot of them willingly have done that survey at the end, and it will tell them, and ask them questions like, what are you using these funds for, and such like that. And we found that the most common draft that people are constantly taking on early wages is about $100. So that's not very much. You would think that they would try to take their entire paycheck or something like that, but no, they're taking just what they need, and that to me is what really surprised me, because I thought people would abuse it, but they're actually using it for something far greater.
You've raised some really interesting points. Obviously, from a recruiter's standpoint, the lens that I look at the industry for, the idea that your own employees are telling others straight away, almost like a sales piece, tells you that they really value the service. Otherwise, they wouldn't be talking about it. When we get a benefit which nobody uses, we don't talk about it. You talk about the things that actually move the needle, right? So if they're doing that, that's fantastic. If it's helped you recruit more talent, that would also tell you that, or tell everybody really, that people are looking for this kind of service. And that would also be supported by the stats of what millennials and Gen Zs and people are looking for, that kind of on-demand pay. It's something that can make the difference between whether you can hire the best talent or not, but also whether you can retain it. I think if you've got access to that service and you get used to that way of living, it's going to be very hard to go back to the traditional pay cycle with a competitor firm, right? So it helps you to retain top talent as well. I think what's really interesting from my perspective is we started the show, we're talking about payroll as a cost center. I did in my introduction. And I think payroll has traditionally always been seen as being very transactional. I think with automation, API integrations, and now earned wage access, we're really starting to see the role of the payroll professional evolve and the industry evolve. And as a result, we're seeing it kind of be more appreciated now as well. How are you seeing it evolve? How has your department been seen differently since these kinds of initiatives have started to take hold?
I've seen us in just, the past 8 years in our industry really see that shift of, we're not viewed by the other departments as just being transactional anymore. We have a voice at the table, and we are able to be able to bring employees' concerns sometimes to the table sooner than HR can. And so we're seeing all of those, cycles of overtime and sick time and things like that. And we're able to start, categorizing what potentially is causing that result with our employee base. And so we're able to be a better partner to our benefits area and tell them what employees are voicing to us that is their biggest concerns. And we're also to take that to leadership as well and say, I understand that I'm here because I need to be able to have a livelihood and everything, but this is, what I would like to see happen with my pay so that I can be able to do things to the best of my ability and not affect the organization entirely, but able to still give me what I'm needing. And the younger generation really is part of that. They're very driven about that instant, I want it now. And a lot of times it's not because they want it to be able to pay bills or whatever. They just want it because they know it is theirs and they want to be able to put it to where they see that they want it to build for them. Maybe that they take their money out daily and they go and they invest it. So they're not waiting 2 weeks to be able to invest a certain portion of their check into something. They're doing it sooner. So it's definitely a lot has changed in our industry by having early wage access brought in as a tool. But I would definitely say that we're no longer the quiet in the corner department. We're much more involved and outspoken about what employees want and what are they doing with their monies and how can the company use it as a tool to retain them and also recruit them.
I think that's fantastic. Right, we need more voices. We need to really bring payroll to the surface and let everyone know the value we can bring. Right, I think it's really important. And you were talking about the instant culture. If we want to watch a movie now, we can stream it instantly on our phones or whatever we need. We can settle restaurant bills 7 different ways using 3 different apps and order an Uber at the same time and all these things. That culture that we've created now with technology, with social media, means that it almost seems crazy that we would wait 4 weeks for our pay or 2 weeks, or depending on your cycle. But we don't wait 2 weeks for anything anymore. So it seems crazy that one thing we would sometimes be willing to wait for is actually the thing that we spend most of our time doing, which is trying to earn our money for our families. And that's sometimes the thing we have to wait for. So for me, sometimes it's a little bit crazy. I think what was interesting, you mentioned something there around the insights piece. You talked about sickness, about absence, about potentially looking at burnout rates and little things you can identify in the data. And one of the other things we've seen as an emerging trend is the power of payroll when it's linked with insights and employee metrics and data. And we know payroll holds some of the cleanest data in any workforce. And I love the fact you said, you know what, Nick, sometimes we spot this stuff even faster than HR. Hallelujah. I absolutely agree. I think this is fantastic. Tell me a little bit about how you see the future of payroll going then, with technology being able to deliver more and more insights for us that really can identify some fantastic trends that can genuinely help that you mentioned having a seat at the table, real organizational objectives at the C-suite level.
Yes. So many great things that do come out of payroll. As you know, a payroll company in the United States is used by the federal government entirely to be able to tell what the job market is doing. And so all of that data is coming from somewhere. It's coming from clients like me, and my clients and such. We're contributing to that data, but data is becoming so instrumental in helping us find direction in every industry, in every job there is out there. And with the payroll industry, what we're seeing is we're starting to see the trends of, like you said, burnout. When we start seeing that sick time creep up, and we know it's because maybe that's when we have our year-end budgets are due or things like that, we can see that maybe there's something we need to do different. So for us, we took our benefits and took them off of a 1/1 calendar year cycle, and we moved it to a 10/1. We saw less stress because we were able to see less days of sick time where people were feeling just struggling with all the different things that are being required of them and coming due at once. So we're able to see that where we can compare what projects or what's happening in the country along with where the number of hours are increasing or decreasing, or, what employee satisfaction levels are doing during certain pieces. So it is definitely the way of the future. And CEOs are starting to pay attention to that. They're starting to ask the payroll team more and more. Mine asks me all the time, what's our turnover report? What is driving that turnover report? We're being utilized as a tool more for exit interviews than HR solely used to be. And so we're starting to see more and more come out of that. And it's really getting to the bottom of the human nature of what type of clientele is working for you? Why are they working for you? What can you do to retain them? What could you have done to retain them? And it brings up all of these questions, and people aren't just pushing the questions off to the side anymore. They're stopping and they're pausing because it's a competitive market to find good people. And we need to do everything we can to try to keep them so that we're listening. And payroll is taking the front line of that process of listening to the people. We are the only department, and I love saying this, we are the only department that touches every single employee on a regular basis. No other department in a corporation does that. Payroll does. And because we hear, the needs of this isn't working for me, but this is working for me, can we consider this? We ask those questions now to the employees instead of just saying, this is when you get paid. That's the end of it. Leave us alone. There is none of that anymore. It's like, what can we do to service you? What kind of benefits are you looking forward to be able to enrich your lives and your family? And what would make you more loyal to work for us compared to leaving and going to a competitor? And so there's a lot of those conversations that are happening more and more and more. And it's leading to other benefits offerings like how employers can pay more now for employees, take their 401k contributions and put it towards their student loans. And the employers can match things and stuff like that towards their student loans. All of those things came out because of payroll. And so it's a great industry to work in. It's constantly changing. So it's
I mean, you've given us a really powerful, response to that question, which I hope everyone has listened to here. I'm gonna just remind everyone of a couple of things that you mentioned. The one is, which I think don't know if I opened my talk up this way in Congress. I've certainly opened other talks with the idea that payroll does touch every employee, every pay cycle, every time without fail. And that is absolutely key. And that pay slip, that is a promise. That is the exchange of dignity, the exchange of time, all the things that we commit to in return for that pay slip. So it holds that value of trust. It holds all those things that are bought into and entwined with that employee experience. But actually, the thing I took away most was just something that I think we need to soundbite and remind everyone, which was, you said, my CEO sometimes will pop by and say, hey, April, have you got our turnover report? That is a direct line from the CEO of your organization, 10,000 employee plus business, 26 states, coming to you and saying, do you have some information on our turnover? Not going to HR, not going to IT or finance. And I think that's absolutely critical. I think we need to have more of these conversations. We need to be able to show our value more confidently in the payroll industry, which I know is quite an introverted industry, but it doesn't have to be. And I think that's really exciting. We need to make payroll way more visible because the value which you're creating there, as you said, moving from cost center to value driver, value creator, is absolutely phenomenal. And I'm so pleased that you're able to bring this to everyone to say, this is actually happening. This isn't just hearsay. This isn't something that we think, or we're just putting out there to get some votes. It's actually happening at the minute. So on the other side, what are the biggest myths then or misconceptions either about EWA or about payroll insights, technology, anything like that you've encountered and have you overcome them?
So the most common misconception was that, and I went into this and I told all the vendors when I first met with them, because I met with every vendor that offered it. And I said, I am not a bill collector. I do not want to know my employees' business. I want them to have their own dignity and be able to manage this on their own. And so there are some situations where people used to be able to work for an employer and say, hey, can I take a loan right now? And they would write him a check for, $50 or whatever. And then they would take it out of their next pay. And that takes a lot for an employer, for any individual to come up and say that they are having a financial struggle, because people just in the human nature naturally judge. Doesn't matter what it is, they're going to judge. And so that was something that I really wanted to safeguard our employees from. I wanted them to be able to have their own dignity. And so with that, it was very insistent that the relationship between them and their early wages and us as the employer was minimal. And so the relationship we have with our partner is the employee and our partner. We get involved. I think we've gotten involved maybe 3 times. And it was because something we did wrong and we messed it up. And so we caused the problem. But otherwise, then the employee knows that they feel confident that they can go straight to the vendor. They don't have to come to their employer to ask questions about that pay. So To me, that's easier. And also, I don't sit there and look to see what everybody's taking because it doesn't matter to me. It's they're managing it on their own. And I think that's great. Now, if I were to get a benefit deduction file where I was having to see on a regular basis what everybody is taking, then that brings concern like, wow, what's going on? Why is everybody, struggling or what's happening? It takes it to a different place. And I think that's when it's not a positive. But with the way we're doing it, the employees get to drive it themselves. They get to make the decisions themselves if they're going to participate or not. They get to decide. I have people who've been on the program for 2 years and never taken an early pay. But they do it for, like I said, the other reasons, the financial reasons of being able to see what they're going to be earning and how to apply that to their families. But yes, I think the biggest misconception is that everybody assumes that people are mistreating it and that they're taking their money and they're just going and spending it frivolously and not utilizing it for things that they actually truly need. One of the greatest stories, I've had an employee come to me and they told me during one of our new hire orientations, and it wasn't just somebody who was just like a small wage earner. This was one of our middle level managers because we don't discriminate against who gets access to early wages. We allow everyone to have access. And that individual pulled me aside in a meeting and said, thank you, because I had been out of work for over a month and I was so worried, how was I going to get the gas money and everything to be able to come and be my best.
Mm.
And
That's similar to the train story, isn't it? How do I get that through that month before I get my money? It's tricky.
And said within a few days, I was able to get enough money to pay for my child's daycare so I could come to work and not be worried, how am I going to do this? And they said it made the biggest difference with them, that they felt like the company cared enough to give them other ways to be able to pay for their needs besides just every 2 weeks on Fridays, you're going to get a paycheck and that's it. Yeah. They needed it then. They needed it in order to be able to start working with us. And that person is still to this day working for our company and is one of the biggest supporters and just always a positive ray of sunshine for helping employees be able to find other ways to do things. So it's very rewarding. But yes, I do have a lot in our field who, when they come in for, quarterly trainings or any type of meeting we're having, they're like, oh, I don't recommend that to my employees because that's just wrong and everything. And I'm like, it's not for you to decide. The employee, this is an employee-driven program. This is an opportunity for the employee to decide what they need. And so I'm proud to say that a handful of those individuals who were very negative Nellies in the beginning are now, I see the difference. I see why we offer this. And my employees are thriving because they're not stressed about having to pay the electric bill or rent is due on the 5th and we don't get paid until the 6th, and they don't have to pay those late fees then and things like that. They're much more financially responsible because they're paying attention to it regularly rather than just every 2 weeks.
Attention payroll leaders, if you're listening to this, you already know that payroll has never been more complex. Compliance risks are rising, skilled talent is scarce, and getting it wrong can cost your business way more than just money. It can cost you trust, retention, and of course, brand reputation. I'm Nick Day, host of this show and also CEO of JGA Recruitment Group, specialist global payroll recruiters. Here at JGA, we're so passionate about payroll, we've even turned it into music. Don't believe us? Head to your favorite audio platform and search for Payroll Powers the World, and you can quite literally join us in song about how we believe payroll deserves its moment in the boardroom to shine. At JGA, we'd like to think our passion shines through to our recruitment results as well. With a 97% retention rate and an average 19-day job brief to hire success rate, we work fast, we work strategically, and we work with purpose to connect you to the hidden payroll talent that job ads and direct search methods will simply never reach. So if you're hiring or indeed planning to hire, why not partner with the experts that are shaping the future of payroll? Partner with jgarecruitment.com today, or better yet, drop me a message directly and together we can make sure your next payroll hire is your best one yet. Yeah, a really, really good example. I think it's worth mentioning as well, just because, someone earns more money doesn't mean they're not one paycheck away from real financial troubles, because human nature we tend to live within our means. If we earn $100,000 or £100,000 in the UK, we tend to get a more expensive finance on our car. We buy a more expensive house. We shop differently. And sometimes it's the unexpected that pulls the rug from our feet, and we suddenly realize that we hadn't been saving sensibly, perhaps, but we find ourselves in some kind of difficulty. So I think it's great that it's offered to all employees. I think that's fantastic. As you say, it gives their dignity back, because there are a lot of companies that say, "Hey, we have a benevolent fund, or we'll give them loans," but then you have to kind of ask and request and sometimes divulge information that you feel uncomfortable divulging. I think also, which is not something that's discussed that often, but some people just want to have the money in their account rather than their companies. And maybe they're not spending it at all. He's like, I'm going to put it in my interest account, and I've earned it. I want to have it. I don't want it stuck somewhere else. And I just want to have full custodial access to the funds that I've earned. And I'm not actually spending it frivolously at all. And from your side, it might look like they're always drawing down, but there's no issues with absenteeism, no issue with presenteeism. They're bubbly and funny at work. They're just putting it somewhere that they would like to have control over. So I think there's many, many different avenues here we could look at. And I think you've given some really, really good some salient examples, which I'm really, really pleased to go through. I want to take it a slightly different direction, because obviously your experience at April extends way beyond just implementing EWA. You've got loads of initiatives, but you've also scaled payroll operations across multiple states. What are some of the key operational challenges you've had to overcome? And what are some of the modern tech tools that perhaps you're using that have helped you to meet those challenges?
Well, we're still working on our adoption of AI, and we're still working on how our company is going to be utilizing that whole new little world. But currently, right now, we're still looking at just different vendors and what type of offerings are they able to offer the employees. And again, give all the control back to the employees and not have the control as the employer ourselves. So with that, the employees are out there investing in their own 401ks, and they're choosing what funds they're putting it in, and and transferring and doing different things like that on a regular basis where we're not involved. So that's one of the things that we're doing and that we're seeing.
I guess I'm interested to know, because you've moved a lot of your processes from manual as well to automated processes. So we know AI at the moment. We're all trying to get to grips with what an AI-driven payroll future looks like. And we're trying to get to grips with which tools actually make a difference and which tools just sound nice but don't really move the needle. But because you've moved a lot of operations from manual to automated sort of processes, where have you seen the cost savings? Where have you seen the time savings? How have you seen payroll evolve over the last, to be honest, relatively small window, almost since the pandemic, really, because we've seen mega advancements in the tech?
I think our biggest thing is, balancing used to just be balancing your hours and your dollars and done, the end. Now it's about diving into those numbers and balancing, going, what happened? Why did we have a 10% increase in overtime? Why did we see that in this one area of the country, there was an increase of 35% in sick leave? There was a flu breakout in that area, things like that, so that we can make better business decisions on our side and other departments, of being able to offer, maybe we needed to offer flu vaccines, a month earlier in that part of the country rather than later, so we're utilizing all of that type of data. So we've really become this massive data hub that we didn't know that we were sitting on a gold mine, but we really are. And we can see where the employees live geographically, what they're earning, and just compare and share that information across the board to be able to make better financial decisions on what type of competitive wages do we want to offer in that area and such, instead of just saying, okay, in our company across 26 states, if you're in this position, everybody earns this. Well, it doesn't work that way. Some areas we need to offer a much higher wage. Other areas we can offer a lower wage, but it's still, very competitive in that area. So just the whole industry together, just going from balancing the simple hours and dollars. And we used to say the end with our register tape and say payroll's done. Now it's about diving deeper into it. I have people who, this is their third paycheck of not being paid. Why? Why are they still in the system? We're paying for their benefits. Why? And we're having all of those processes automated out to the field and saying, you need to get this person updated. Oh, well, they're on leave of absence. Why are they not changed then? They're on workers' comp. Why are they not changing the system? So we have a lot more control over our actual data and in our employees to be able to report back. I commonly share with our field that, we are charged what we say PIPM, per monthly fee, with our payroll vendor. And I tell them all the time, if the employee works or not, we're being charged. So that's coming out of your budget. And take into consideration that if you're coming to your regional directors and vice presidents and saying, oh, we don't have enough people working and things like that, that's the first place they're going to go. They're going to come to my department and say, April, let me see what the head count is in that area. And if you're not keeping track of, who's working and who's not and utilizing those to the best of your abilities, then they're going to say, you have enough people, you make it work. But if you actually are keeping your data as clean as possible, then executives can make better decisions that will better, support your challenges, and everybody will win in the long run. So it's all about
great example. It is. You know what? And I think you gave a great point, because payroll used to be rewarded with silence. I used to compare payroll to being like, if you're into cycling, the domestique, the person that takes the win the whole race until the person dips out from behind the windshield and wins the race. In payroll, if no one said anything, if no one called, you kind of knew you'd done a job well done, and it was that silence was golden kind of thing. But you gave an example earlier where someone pulled you aside and said, April, thank you. You changed my life. You allowed me to get to work. I could pay for my gas. Now we've got people calling payroll departments and saying, thank you for paying me correctly, and thank you for all these other services. We're fully entrenched in that employee experience piece now, which I think is wonderful. And I think there's a lot of fear around automation, a lot of fear around AI. And I would say very simply, AI can calculate, but it's the humans that care. AI can process, but it's the payroll people that protect. And you've given some really good examples of how you've been able to do that. We've got to contextualize what's going on. The AI will do what it's told to do, but actually it's the humans that need to go, well, that doesn't seem right. Why has that not happened correctly? Is this actually moving the needle? Are our employees happier? Because AI will keep going in that direction until we look at the data and go, but we're losing staff. So can we change things? Can we implement something else? Can we get the feedback? Can we contextualize it? Can we make people happier at work? And as I know, there's a big campaign of 30 by 30 and things like that for the chief payroll officer. And I'm not saying I'm against that by any stretch, but I see payroll more on the ethical guardian side personally. So I like the idea of there being a chief payroll ethicist, someone that can look at the bias in the data, someone can look at pay gaps in the data, someone that can look at really finding parity in workforces, identifying where leadership gaps may exist because there are high turnover rates in that department, where you can identify how you can improve well-being at work, improving the experience through the way that we pay people, whether that's pay on demand, whether that's through interactive pay slipping, whatever it might be, financial education. All of these elements for me sit in the ethical guardian side, that employee experience, that ethical side of how we get paid, not just what we get paid, but taking it to the other side. And for me, that's why I'm so excited by the future of payroll. And I think you've articulated so many facets of that in today's show that I'm just over the moon, because this is all the things that I think too. And I'm without you knowing it, we're fully aligned. I know we met at Congress, had a very brief discussion, but it's been a really, really interesting conversation. I guess I'll leave it with my last question before we open the vault, which is, looking ahead, what are you most excited about? What do you think are going to be the things that really do reshape the future of payroll?
We're starting to see that now. The position HRIS, human resource information systems, that role typically used to report to HR. We're starting to see that role more and more and more move into payroll. And it's because we have the data, and those individuals want to understand the data better, so that when they're having to write reports or pull analytics together for us, they are able to better speak to it as well. So we're starting to see that those IT people are starting to get deeper into our industry to get a better understanding, so that they can help create better products for all of us to be able to interpret data. So that's where I see our industry going. It's always still going to be about the data, but it's still always going to be about the human interpreting the data. And, you have to know what you want to do with the data.
Love that. It sits at the intersection of arguably the three most powerful things we have in business, right? People, of course, data, which people say is now the most powerful currency in the world. And I think those two things alone make it really, really powerful. But then you add in the third, which is the money side of things. And it's still 60 to 80% of most companies' operational expenses through payroll. And you add those three things together and you've got a really powerful combination of factors that should hopefully elevate payroll to be where we all think it should belong. Certainly the people listening to this podcast, I'm sure will agree with you that payroll needs to be seen, it needs to be visible, it needs the respect it deserves. And I think it's going in the right direction. So, and you've really helped everyone else to understand how. So thank you ever so much for sharing those insights with us today. I'm going to open the payroll vault. So 3 short, sharp questions for you. The first one is this: one piece of advice you would give to someone starting out in the world of payroll today?
Find a mentor.
Oh, love that.
Find a mentor.
Great. Well, perfect.
Yep.
Have you got a mentor yourself? Have you had one? Have your team got mentors?
I do. And I mentor a lot of other individuals as well. And I'm proud to say that I've taken several people who have started off as regular consultants, and they are now payroll managers and directors of their own. And they're doing great in the industry. And it's very rewarding. But yes, it's all about finding a mentor. I had a mentor. And if it wasn't for that individual or the few individuals I've had over the years because of different parts of my career that I need to learn in, I wouldn't be where I'm at without it. But it is definitely find a mentor.
Yeah, I fully agree. As you know, I work as an executive coach and mentor as well. I have my mentor that I still work with now, have done for many years. And as you say, it's one of the most satisfying things, helping and mentoring someone through success, starting as administrators, seeing them move through to senior payroll managers and learning along the way, because I think we learn a lot, as much from our mentees as they learn, hopefully, from the mentorship, which I think is really exciting. What's one thing you now know that you wish you'd known when you first started in your career?
Oh, goodness. That's a tough one, Nick. Just, I guess to just hold on tight, because, when I started in this career, again, it was that register tape of just dollars and hours, and that was the end. And to see it morph into this whole massive industry that it's become is just not something that I would have thought would have happened, because payroll was such a quiet in the corner department. And now it's very loud and rambunctious and growing and becoming this, teenager, so to speak, that's, kind of becoming the rebellion one too, going, well, we don't agree with you because we have this to back it up, so I think that's probably what I wish I would have known, so that I could have paid attention maybe to a few other smaller pieces of how we started to, expand and blossom. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I say payroll's now got windows. When I started 22 years ago doing payroll recruitment, it used to be payroll departments in windowless offices.
Yes.
That's what it was. The back rooms forgotten about, with the sort of fax machines and nothing else. And now they've got windows, we've got voices, we've got big offices, and it's all changed. So
and some of us
right.
have the best view of Lake Michigan and the river all at the same time. So
happy days. Happy days. There you go.
Where we are. We've made it there.
So you've got a choice here, a choice of 2 questions. So you can either take to option 1, which is you can sum up payroll as either a movie or a song and tell us why, or you can give us one book, resource, or quote that's influenced your own approach to payroll. You choose.
Oh, goodness, Nick. I'm not good at either one of those. I don't know how to answer that one, Nick. I'm sorry. I really don't.
Do you have a favorite movie?
Goodness, there's so many favorite movies of mine. I love to watch any type of murder mystery there is. And so if there's a murder mystery show, I've probably watched it. I have the BBC just so I can get access to all of the murder mystery shows that are produced overseas. But no, I love anything like that because it adds that suspense and it goes directly along with what I do in payroll, that I know I'm going to have a start and a finish, but typically some of us payroll people think of things backwards. I look at the end and I work my way back forward. And that is what I always found when several other mentors over the years said, that will be that's what you're going to be known for, is because you don't start in the beginning of the problem, you start at the end and you work backwards. And that's true. That's what I've done. So I guess, I don't know. Movies.
I think you've answered the question without even knowing it. That's just and one more thing.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, April, it's been an absolute pleasure having you still on the Payroll Podcast. Thank you very much for joining me, sharing some remarkable insights. I hope it's inspired those that listen. I'm sure it probably has. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please do remember to share it with your colleagues and friends. Let's get this message out. Let's make it global. If you can, please do review the show. Please remember to click subscribe and follow, depending on wherever you get this content, whether it's on audio, whether it's on YouTube, or wherever else. Please remember to follow us and share the episode. But April Smith, thank you ever so much for joining me today. And I look forward to seeing the next episode of the Payroll Podcast real soon. Thank you. Global teams are more connected today than ever, but managing payroll, HR, and IT can still feel fragmented. But Deel simplifies global work with one platform that keeps everything running smoothly. No compliance guesswork, no third-party payroll, just seamless operations backed by 24/7 expert support. That's why over 35,000 companies trust Deel to handle their global workforce. Visit deel.com/nickday to see how Deel can help. That's DEEL.com/NICKDAY. Deel, your forever people platform.